landscape photography world, the podcast for everyone passionate about landscape photography. I'm Grant Swinburne and I'll be your host on this show, talking to landscape photographers about their motivations, likes and dislikes. This podcast is sponsored by SyncBack Pro, the professional photographer's tool to keep your images safe. How safe are your photographs? Or to put it this way, how would you feel if you permanently lost some or even all of them? The fact is, there are very real risks in storing your digital images on a hard drive, even if they're backed up to an external device. There's ransomware, hardware failure, file corruption, virus infection, and even accidental deletion or destruction. SyncBack Pro makes this problem go away permanently. SyncBack Pro is the professional photographer's tool to back up photographs, images, documents, and data files. Once set up, it keeps your files safe, quietly and reliably in the background. So if problems occur or disaster strikes, you'll have nothing to worry about. Your photographs will be safe. Which is why it's also the backup solution that I use myself for my own photographs. Take advantage of an exclusive 25% discount today by going to www.backup.sg. This software will never expire, meaning your photographs are safe forever. That's www.backup.sg. Give your photographs the protection they deserve.
Stephane Thomas is a Sydney-based photographer who dabbles in many genres of photography. Though he enjoyed photography growing up, other interests took Stephane away from it for many years. But a 2016 trip to South Africa rekindled his passion, and in 2022 he was named one of Australasia's top emerging photographers, in particular for his architecture work. He's still very keen on remaining an amateur photographer for now, but does have designs on going full-time at some point in the future. We talk about the camera he lost in Sydney Harbour, his dislike of social media, and how he sees the world, along with a lot more. I hope you enjoy the show. Hi Stephane, welcome to Landscape Photography World. How are you going?
Very good, thank you, Grant. How are you?
Yeah, I'm pretty good. It's been a good and very productive day for me. How about yourself?
Yeah, busy day. Got a full-time job, but so it's a bit crazy at the moment, approaching to Christmas. But it was okay today. Thank you for having me in your podcast. It's very nice.
It's a great pleasure. I love your work, and it's why I asked you on, because I've been following you for quite some time, and I think you've got some remarkable work both in landscape and some of the stuff you've shifted into with sort of fine art architecture. So I'm going to touch on both of those because to me, architecture is still part of landscape. So talk to me a little bit about who you are, where you've come from, and what got you started in photography.
Yeah, so I'm a bit of a generative photographer. I don't only do landscape. I do, as you said, a bit of architecture, a bit of everything. Originally from France, I moved to Sydney in 2005, initially for a year. That's what I told my parents when I left. Never came back. So I've been here, I think, 17 years now. Yeah, and I think my photography story would be pretty similar to many other people. It's something that has always been in the family. My dad is a film photographer. Obviously, back then was on film. Yeah, so I've always been there's always been a camera hanging around in the house, and
Sure.
My dad had a dark room set up in the house, so he could develop his own black and white photography.
Yep.
So I remember as a kid, I was allowed to touch anything, but I was allowed to watch, and it was quite a fascinating process to see like this imaging, all those trays and chemicals, and see the image appear. And so that's I've always sort of been in contact with photography. And then with my brother and sisters, we had our own little point and shoot camera, so we could take our own little photos.
Yep.
My parents gave us some rolls, and we checked some photos. I don't think they were very good, but it was nice to take our own photos. And then it was hard to learn photography. Probably harder than now, because we didn't have the resources that are available now. Of course, there was no internet. That's how old I am. So if you wanted to learn photography, it had to be with books or with another photographer. But also on films, you can't see what you're doing. You take a photo, you try some settings, but you can't see the result. So it was a bit.
You don't know what you get until you get it developed.
Yeah, exactly. So I've never really learned properly, but I always had a camera for traveling. So I had a little SLR camera for traveling, and then got a DSLR when it started to come out, basic one. But then I also lost touch with photography when I actually moved here for maybe 10 years or so, because I do many other things and I had other priorities. I got involved in triathlon, so I was spending pretty much my life really. Training was almost a part-time job. So I didn't have much time for photography. And then I started again when we went to South Africa. I think it was 2015 or 16. And I knew I was going to see a lot of wildlife in Kruger Park. So I bought a little, one of those hybrid cameras from Canon. So it's because I need a big zoom, because obviously a phone doesn't do a totally good job for that kind of stuff. So those little hybrid camera, they're quite fun actually. They have a really good zoom. The quality is okay for a $400 camera, and so I had lots of fun, and that sort of sparked a passion again, really. Yeah, so that's how I started again. So first thing I did when I came back from South Africa is buy a new camera, a DSLR, which I dumped in the harbor 4 days later. Which that definitely wasn't my finest moment, but I remember went back to the shop, say, remember that ATD you sold me a week ago? Well, I need another one.
Was it insured?
So I discovered, because I'm really bad with that kind of admin things, I discovered my credit card actually had an insurance.
Nice.
And I didn't think it was going to work, but I gave them a call, and the lady I spoke to was really nice. She's like, it happens all the time. Don't worry about it.
Wow.
They gave me my money back, and I got a new camera. But
that's fantastic. And I guess having it only 4 days really probably helped in that regard.
Yeah. Well, I laugh now, but I wasn't laughing at the time. It's
no,
it was in Lavender Bay, because I live nearby. I just wanted to try. Remember, I had a cheap tripod, turned around to grab something in my bag, and I heard it splash. I didn't actually think immediately that was my camera, because there's a lot of dogs around, people play, and I thought it was a dog jumping in the water, and I turned around and my camera's not there, and I look in the water and I see tripod legs sticking out. That wasn't great.
Talk to me a bit about why you moved to Australia. What prompted that shift?
So my sister's been here for longer than I've been.
Mm-hmm.
So I came here a couple of times on holiday, decided looked pretty good.
It's got some advantages.
Exactly. So so I came for a year, and initially I really thought it was going to be a year, but Sydney is a pretty amazing city. So I managed to stay for work.
Fantastic. So in terms of your photography, what style you've changed your style even since I've been following you over the last couple of years. What do you see as, I guess, the direction that style is taking for you? And I'm interested in a little bit around the motivation for the shift.
I think I try to simplify things a lot more. I think I try to keep my image very simple. I think when people start, and when I started, I think I made the same sort of mistake, is we try to put everything as much as we can in the frame.
Yeah, you want the widest angle and you want everything. Yeah,
that's right. Especially with landscape, you have a wide angle, put it on, and try to really put it as much as you can in the frame. And then you look at the photo and you sort of don't understand it because you don't know where to look.
Yeah.
So that's something I've sort of discovered as I learned photography, is to really simplify things and have a clear sort of story of what I want the viewer to see. So if I want the viewer to see a particular area of the photo, I'm going to make sure I capture it that way, but I also edit it that way. To really keep things simple. I think the simpler, the better.
Cool. And I guess, do you set yourself goals in your photography? And if so, what are they?
Yes. So I usually have goals for pretty much everything I do. That's what keeps me motivated. Photography really depends what kind of photography I'm shooting, because I do a lot of different genres of photography. But the main goal is to really try to get to improve and to get better and better. I don't do this like it's a complete hobby for me. I don't do that commercially or anything. So for me, it's just the only goal is to see how far I can go and how good I can get if I can really improve the standard of my photography to a really, really good level.
Yeah.
That's the main goal. And also the main goal is to have fun, really enjoy it. Because I do this as a hobby, I only do what I want to do.
Yeah.
So the main goal is to challenge myself, stay stimulated, find new ideas, and then try to really improve. Yeah.
I guess one of the things I ask quite a bit is where you made that realization that your photography could be more creative than just, as you say, you've got your wide angle lens and you're taking the whole scene. And where did that thinking start, and how did that process work for you?
It started with competitions.
Okay.
Because when I started photography, I sort of discovered Instagram at the same time, which was probably the worst thing that could happen. So because I came back from that trip to South Africa, I had lots of photos of wildlife and things like this, and I had friends on Instagram wanted to share my photos with my friends. I created an account, and then you sort of see photos popping up and discover all of things, and sort of got trapped into this game. And I see photography almost like as a video game where it's like a mini world within the world of photography, which is quite restrictive if you worry too much about what other people think, because you tend to shoot what other people do. And I got trapped into this for a while. And then when I entered my first big competition was the Focus Award.
Okay.
The Focus Australia group, they used to run the Focus Award, and they haven't done since COVID started. And I don't think they have a plan to do them again for a while. But that was my first competition. Then that was probably a few years after I started to take photos. And when you read on Instagram, every day someone tells you that your photos are amazing, and Instagram is a bit like that. And so I'm thinking of competition. I'm like, oh, this is good. I'm gonna enter that competition. My photos are apparently amazing, so that's great. And then that was a big eye opener for me, because that's when I realized that I was nowhere near.
You could start to see what the standard and level required was.
And people winning those competitions, they don't win competition with the sunrise of the opera house that have been seen 1,000 times. They come up with something different and more creative and a lot more thinking. And so for me, that was a real new start of my photography, is to realize that I needed to stop worrying about what I was seeing on Instagram and worry more about what I was seeing outside of Instagram, and really think about being creative. So that's where the shift really happened. Pretty brutally, because I'm a bit of a competitor, so I don't like losing. So when
I've met too many people that do.
That's true. But because I had this fake idea of that I was a little bit delusional of where my photography was really. Because I had never got any proper feedback other than on Instagram, and you never get any negative feedback on Instagram. So it was a good eye opener actually, and I'm really glad I did that. And I pretty much the next day when I got the results, I'm like, okay, I need to change something. I studied the photos of the top 10, top 20, and what was really interesting is all these people at the top of the pointing of the competition, very little of them actually had a very active Instagram account. Some of them had hadn't updated their account for like 6 months or something like this. And so it really, for me, it was an eye opener that photography was happening elsewhere, and I needed to find that. That's what. So that's what I've been focused on since, and I think that's why my photography has improved quite a lot in the last couple of years.
Did you seek out advice from anyone?
So I tried to contact some of the winners of that competition. It was a bit complicated because they don't really have a big presence on social media, but I found a few, and I got tips on courses to do. And so I spent a lot of energy on courses and to really learn properly, because everything I had done so far was just by myself, looking a bit of stuff on YouTube and that kind of thing. But I needed to really learn properly, start again from scratch pretty much.
Yeah.
So, and these guys are really helpful. The photography community is usually pretty friendly. So you ask a question, people ask you, they're very happy to point you to a course they've done themselves or do some sort of article they need to read.
Yeah. I think to be honest, that's something that is nice about the well, call it an industry, a community, whatever you like. But I think most people are fairly willing to share some of their experience. Some of them will make you pay for it, I guess, but so there are others that are quite willing to sort of talk to people and help mentor them into the creative processes that are required to improve the standard of your work. That's, I think, one of the important things about the community and getting people into it and getting people encouraged, as opposed to, I'm going to protect all my information. It's my personal IP. I'm not going to let anyone know. So I think that openness is really something that helps the overall community grow as well.
Yeah, definitely, and also without giving all your secret out, you can give pointers and direction on where to look and what to start. So that's
yeah. So what sort of tips were you looking for? Compositional or technical?
Yeah, I mean, I think I needed to start from scratch again to really learn about composition, about what is a good photo, what makes a good photo. And that's why I've simplified, because someone told me one day that every photo needs to have a hero and a supporting cast. And that's, for me, something that is really printed in my head. Every time I take a photo, I'm looking for my hero and my supporting cast. And that's it. You don't need to have many other elements.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a big ensemble.
No, exactly. Yeah, it can be a very simple story. So, and that's what I really focus on every time, is to really have a clear view of what it is I want to show, rather than having everything in the frame. That was a good direction. I also needed some good editing guidance, because I had really no idea. So I did a proper editing course, Lightroom, Photoshop, because YouTube is good and has its place, but I think to do a proper course gives you a proper structure. Things happen in the right order. So
I think that aspect of things, doing things in the right order, because a change to contrast can affect your colors and so forth. So you've got to do certain things, and also particularly if you're working with layers, doing high pass filters and then say changing the perspective of the image will leave artifacts if you haven't done that across all of the layers, or if you haven't merged layers, for example. So there's a lot of things that I think you need to understand about how the products work in the first place, but also in terms of building a workflow. I think that's it's absolutely vital that you kind of get that workflow grounding and understand that.
Yeah, so that's what I was definitely lacking, that kind of understanding and a proper structure. So that's the kind of direction that I got from more experienced people.
Yeah, cool. In terms of planning your shoots, are you conceiving an idea around what it is that you want to bring into the image before you go out, or are you more getting out and exploring the options that are there on the ground when you actually get in the field?
So that will depend on what I shoot. If I shoot landscape, it's probably the one type of photography that I plan the least.
Okay.
Because part of landscape photography for me is to get out, enjoy the sunrise, the sunset, or wherever I am. So enjoy the scenery, relax, not worry about anything. Sometimes I will sit in the rock, and then I might even forget to get my camera out because I'm just sort of watching what's around. So I do basic planning, like all the common sense things, like where I'm going, access, how long it's going to take me to get to the place. There's going to be high tide, low tide, that kind of things. But I don't really have, unless it's a spot I've been before where I sort of know more to expect. But if it's a location that I don't know that well, I won't really have a clear plan or clear shot in my head, because with landscape, there's so many things that you can't control.
Yeah.
Even if you have a shot in mind, you get there and then you're disappointed because it's too windy. There's a sea
Too much cloud in the wrong place or whatever. Yeah.
Exactly. So I have a vague idea of why I'm going to that location, but nothing more than this. And then I watch a lot more until I see something that I want to capture. And that's also a different approach that when I started, and I think everyone does that when you start, is get your location, get the camera out, and then shoot like a maniac, like I was
Come
really
home with thousands
exactly.
Yeah.
Come back home with 600 photos, hoping there will be a good one, and you didn't have a clear plan. But now I might go home with 40 shots, because I tend to really observe a lot more. And if I don't see what I want, sometimes I won't get the camera out. And
So what about the more structured images, that shift into that sort of fine art architecture in particular, where your style, as I say, is quite different to your fairly typical landscape style. Where are you in terms of that planning and how you've sort of worked through the workflow for building one of those shots? Do you, again, it sounds to me like you've got a much better conceptual idea about what it is that you're looking for there.
Yeah, so those shots are definitely planned quite a lot. So this one is a completely different approach, especially if it's in a location where I can go multiple times. If I'm shooting architecture in Sydney,
yep,
or not far, these ones I always have a really clear idea of what it is that I want. I've got the photo in my head, and that's very different. I'll usually discover those locations. I do a fair bit of running, so when I run around the city, it's a really good opportunity for me to discover new things that you don't necessarily when you drive around. So usually we'll start with something I notice, and then I will stop and take a quick snap with my phone, so I don't forget the location, because there's so many that I forget. So I've got in my phone, I've got location shots, and then I wait for the right condition. But sometimes I don't. So if it's a tricky building where I need to check access, composition, because when you see a building, sometimes it looks good, but then with your eyes, you don't necessarily realize that there's cables in front, there's trees, or there's a whole sort of stuff that might not work for composition. So sometimes it's not too far, even the conditions aren't good, I go with my camera and I work at the composition, and then I take a few photos so then I can go home, put it in Photoshop, do a quick sketch of what it is that I want to make sure that it works. And I also do that because sometimes the conditions that I need don't last very long. So if I go there, the conditions are perfect, and then I start to find the right composition, and then when I'm ready, then the sun comes out, and then I've got massive reflection in the building, and then that's it, I'm done. So if I can, I try to go multiple times, and then usually for those shots, I need the softest light I can. So overcast is good because it's like a big soft box. I don't have any reflection, anything like this. And I can take the shot, because after that, it's all dodging and burning. So then I can decide what I want to reveal and hide. And usually when I see a building, that's what I'm trying to identify straight away, is looking for patterns, lines, area of the building that are more interesting than others. Yeah, so once it's shot, got a completely sort of very flat images, and then that's where I can start to edit.
Yeah, okay. So in terms of those images, where's your starting point? Is it the concept that you've got in your head? Is it the style that you're going to edit? Is it the subject matter? Which bit sort of comes together first to give you the idea, I guess, to generate that image?
Usually it's the building that I see. So I tend to discover those shots when I run, and I sort of run almost I look live through a viewfinder these days, where I look and I also automatically, like say, oh, that would be a good frame, that would be good. But so it's always a building, because especially now in Sydney, there's a lot of new ones that popping up with really interesting
Yeah, some interesting architecture going on there.
Yeah, some interesting lines, interesting patterns. So that's the start. And then I sort of decide what area would be nice to actually highlight. And so that's the starting point, and that's what I've had in my head.
Yeah.
And then it's all a matter of editing. But they take a while to edit. So I need to be in the right mindset for that, because if I'm not prepared to spend lots of time, I'm going to take shortcuts, and then the results will be pretty bad.
Yeah, the quality suffers if you're taking those shortcuts.
Yeah, because it relies a lot on very precise masking.
Yep.
So I use a lot of paint tool. So it could take me sometimes 2 days to do the masking that I want, depending on how complicated the building is. And then so the principle is quite simple, but to actually edit properly takes quite a while.
Yeah. So in terms of that, I'm interested in what you said about the time taken to actually create the mask. Are you using luminosity values, color values, or a mix of the two?
It depends on every image is different. It really depends on how some buildings are easier than others. If they have really lots of square lines, and then I shot them on a day where I could play a clear background, that makes the masking a lot easier. I also tend to try to be very careful when I shoot, because I've made a few mistakes where sometimes I could have moved the meter to the right and I would avoid the tree in front of the line where it has to mask out or clone out. So I'm very careful of that when I shoot now. So it really depends on the image. I'm a bit lazy, so I try to do the simple things first. Try to get luminosity mask,
or
colors, or anything that gives me a sharp mask. But sometimes you just have to use the paint tool.
Yeah.
Or not enough contrast.
So in terms of the images themselves, are you trying to create something unique or something that's distinctive and recognizable in that genre?
For those images, usually it's trying to give a different view of those particular buildings.
Yeah, so it's a familiar sight, but you're giving it a very different take.
Yeah, because sometimes when you see those buildings, you can see the patterns, but when you look with your eyes, they're in color, and then they can look a bit flat or something. So I'm trying to really give a different view and highlights what I think is the most interesting part of the building. Sometimes it's the shape, sometimes it's pattern, sometimes it's the surrounding, but it's I'm just trying to really highlight what I think is the most important part of this particular building.
Yeah, okay. So for your photography in general, and whether it's landscape or the fine art architecture, how would you define success for your photography?
I think the most important thing is if I'm happy with my image, especially for those architecture shots, if I manage to produce the image exactly how I imagine it, then that's good success. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much it for me, because it's really a hobby that I do just to challenge myself. And so if I'm happy with what I've done, if I've done what I had in my head and I'm really happy with it, then the next point of success might be if I enter them in a competition and they do really well, then that's obviously quite a nice reward as well.
Yeah, sure. Very interested in that, I guess, the lifestyle choice and how you manage your time in terms of taking the time for photography and editing and so forth. How do you balance full-time work and your photography?
Well, full-time work and photography would be okay, but I do many other stuff. So I'm quite time poor. Luckily, I don't need to sleep that much, so that's good. But I mean, it's all prioritizing. So there are time of the year where I spend more time on photography because it's time where all of a sudden the conditions are perfect, or I've lined up some shoot with people, that kind of thing. So I will focus more on this and less on the other stuff. But it's always a constant sort of battle to compromise. And also because I like to do everything I do, I try to do it the best I can. It's always a bit of a stressful balance, because if I spend a lot of time on photography, then sure, my photography is going to improve, and that's great. But all the other stuff, I'm not.
Yeah, everything else.
Yeah, because I'm quite got lots of hobbies.
Fair enough. In terms of shooting, you obviously shoot quite a bit around Sydney. Do you travel much for photography, or is it more, I'm going on holiday, so I'm going there anyway, and I'll just take the camera?
I've done a few road trips by myself down the south coast, or I went to Perth just before lockdown. I went to Perth. I think I came back 2 days before WA was closed for like 6 months or something. Wow. So that could have been a long road trip. But yeah, but other than that, I usually, my wife and I, we go on holiday, and then I take, obviously, the camera. Half of my luggage is always camera gear. Yeah, I take photos when we're on holiday, and then occasionally I do a couple of trips by myself.
Deliberate trips, yeah.
Yeah, so I go for a couple of days. If I might go inland, or I might go down the south coast. I've spent a fair bit of time in Newcastle recently, because we just got a place there, so we spend a bit of time. The last couple of years traveling was not necessarily the easiest, but
it's been a challenge to travel.
Yeah, exactly. But so I went to Europe last year for Christmas. I took my camera, but it was winter, so it wasn't ideal because the days are very short.
Yeah. Mind you don't have to get up quite so early for sunrise.
No, it's true. Yeah. Sunrise was at like 9 o'clock, I think, or something ridiculous, and then sunset at 4.
I made the mistake of going to the UK in June and July, and getting up for those 4 a.m. sunsets was a real killer.
Yeah, that's hard.
In terms of locations, have you got a favourite spot that just keeps calling you back, and if so, why?
No, I don't think I do. I mean, there's a few spots in Sydney that I like to go to, mostly because it's just nice to be out there anyway. Like I like the northern beaches. I used to live down there, so I know the area quite well. I like going there. But I actually haven't shot in Sydney for quite a while, because I feel, not that I've shot everything I needed to shoot in Sydney, but I just need a bit of a break from that.
Yeah.
There's a few. Now I'm starting to have a new project coming in my head in Sydney that I actually haven't been there or there for quite a while.
Yeah, okay.
But I don't really have a favorite location now.
Okay, so there's nowhere that just keeps drawing you back that you've got to keep shooting, or you haven't quite nailed yet.
No, I get I actually don't really like shooting the same location and again. Very often. I've done that quite a lot at the start. I can't remember how many sunrises of the Opera House I took, but I don't think I need to probably shoot another one for a very long time, because I feel like I've done that, and I'm trying to focus on something a little bit different. But there are definitely a lot of new buildings in Sydney that I'd like to shoot.
Cool. What's the most memorable experience you've had while out shooting?
I'm not sure. I mean, I just came back from a trip in South Africa, and we were really lucky with all the animals that we got to see. So that was quite special. Sometimes we spent about half an hour with the cheetah, pretty much by ourselves, and it was really nice. So that was a good experience. But yeah, I've got lots of good memories. I don't think I have a particular one that comes to mind, but
sure. How about other than losing your camera in the harbour, have you got any horror stories?
No, I think this one was definitely the bad one.
That was the worst, yeah.
No, I dropped a few lenses. I dropped a few filters. But that's everyone does it. It's really annoying when that happened. But I don't really have massive horror stories. Like, I've never really hurt myself.
That's a good thing.
I got close a few times on that. That green stuff on the rocks. This is deadly, deadly thing. But I've never really had any big problems other than breaking occasionally a couple of.
Yeah, fair enough. What do you think you've learned about the world through photography?
I don't know if I learned anything about the world from photography, but I think photography brings me back down to a sort of a happy place. Because when you look at the world right now, it's not really not really going well.
Right, there's some not so great news going around.
Exactly. Yeah, things aren't really going terribly well. The world is going a little bit mad, which is quite sort of depressing a little bit. But the photography brings me back to a little pocket of goodness in the world that where you're like, oh, actually, it's not all bad, and it's nice. It's nice. Even it's like the planet is beautiful. There's many really nice places to go to and to discover, and but the world we built on top at the moment is probably not ideal.
Do you prefer photographing alone or with other people?
Usually by myself. Yeah, usually by myself because, well, I mean, it depends. I don't mind shooting with another person or two, because we don't have to be in each other's space.
Yep.
Shooting in groups, I find quite frustrating.
Okay.
Because there's always someone in your shot. There's always a guy that's going to, go at the front.
Yeah.
So I try to stay away from group, and then it has happened occasionally where I go. I remember last time I went to the Narrabeen pool, and then what's the beach next to it? It's
Parramatta.
Yeah, and I went there, and I think there was a workshop or something like 40 people, and so I just went somewhere else because I find it because if I shoot landscape, I want to enjoy the place. That's why I shoot landscape.
Yeah, it's less enjoyable sometimes when there's a lot of people around.
Yeah, exactly. Just enjoy the calmness, sitting on the rock, quiet. So when there's 40 tripods around, it's just kill the mood a little bit for me. So I try to shoot by myself, and also sometimes I can take a very long time to shoot things because I might not leave until I get what I want. So it's better that I'm by myself, so I don't really.
Yeah, sure. So what happens when you've been out, you've got your shot, and you come back home? Are you taking the card out, putting it straight onto the computer, getting into editing, or is that something that you take a lot more time with and get back to it at a later date?
So if I can, I usually like to look at the photos straight away.
Mm-hmm.
So I download them onto the computer. I'm always a little bit paranoid as well with cards. So I don't like having photos hanging in my cards for too long in the camera, especially if it's something I can't shoot again. Like when we were in South Africa shooting that wildlife, took all those photos of that cheetah. I know that I probably won't stay another half an hour with a cheetah ever again. So I actually had my laptop in the car, put them straight away in the laptop. So at least I had a copy.
Yeah, right.
Because I'm a little bit, And I could actually shoot with two cards, but I don't. But so I put them on the computer, so I have them, and I go through them really quickly. I remove all the stuff that I know I'm never going to use, and then I give them a quick grade. So I use Lightroom as a catalog. So I just go through everything that potentially has a bit of interest. I start at 3, so I go 3, and then I go through the 3s again. Go 4, and then go 5, and then the 5 are the ones that I'm going to use first. And then I might leave them for a very long time. I've got shots that I think I did a New Zealand trip before COVID that I still haven't looked really. I think I have edited maybe 10 photos out of probably 200 that I kept, so I don't know. So I can leave them for a very long time because I think I've got to be in the right mindset to edit the right photo. Like, sometimes you don't feel like editing a landscape photo. I prefer to. Sometimes you forget, and then also I think leaving the photo sit for a while helps you when you look at them again. You look at them with fresh eyes, and you can see eventually there's problems.
Yeah, definitely. I think sometimes going back, and I've got years worth of photos on the hard drive, and going back, a few years. I actually posted one the other day, which was an old point and shoot from I think about 2002, 2003.
I was at the sunrise that I saw that sunrise.
Yeah, down at Jarvis Bay. Yeah, and it was just one I went through, and haven't seen that one for a long time, and I don't mind it.
It's a good photo. It's a good photo, but that's the thing that we sometimes forget about. Old photos, and I often look at old folders and some photos that you at the time didn't think were really good. Actually look them again and say, actually that's a pretty good photo, and start editing them, or
Yeah.
so I do that quite a lot.
Yeah, I love finding those little hidden gems that you occasionally come up with, and or even ones that you might have edited before, and you go back and re-edit. Are there any particular ones that you've done that with?
I've done one actually this week. I actually just shared it this week. Is the photo of a lighthouse, the Macquarie Lighthouse.
Oh yeah, yep.
Yeah, so that's something I did a couple of years ago, and I wasn't really happy with it. I mean, that's definitely a bit of a fancy edit on that one.
Just a bit.
And I was never really happy with it because it's one of those photos that it's one of those projects that I had in my head at the time I shot it, and I did it too quick, and I was never really happy with it. And then I found it by mistake this week. I was looking for something else, and oh yeah, I forgot about this one, and I got stuck into it. Pretty much started almost from scratch again, and I think this time I'm a bit happier with it. So
yeah, I think you got pretty close to nailing it.
Thank you. Anything looks good on the small screen, though. I think
that's always
yeah. There's still a couple of things that because I'll have it here on my screen and I'm looking at it like, oh, I didn't notice this, so maybe I'll have to do a third version of it, but that's okay.
Yeah,
but, I do revisit sometimes photos, and also sometimes you look at your edit and you think, oh, what
was I thinking?
Yeah, exactly. Or even things like really bad mistakes, like the horizon is skewed or something like that.
Yeah, you haven't got rid of all the dust spots. Yeah, you can.
Yeah, that really annoying dust spots.
In looking at the presentation, do you print much of your work?
Yes, I do have a printer at home, so I do print a fair bit, and it's also something I like doing because it really forces you to pay attention to details.
Yeah.
And that's what I like, because that dust spot, for example, there's nothing more annoying than printing and then look at the print.
There's a big splodge that I
exactly. Yeah, so I like printing, and what I like is also finding the right media for the right photo. That's also a good exercise. Printing is difficult to get, especially black and white. You've got to have the black. With the black, you don't want to print with a cast. Sometimes come with a bit of a magenta cast. So it's always.
I call printing a bit of a black art in and of itself. And I was talking to somebody last week who said it's kind of like learning your editing process from scratch again, because the way that you edit for the screen and for particularly the small screen, you can get away with a lot more, as you say, on a small screen, because those dust spots aren't really going to show up necessarily. Whereas when you're printing, particularly in a large format, you've really got to pay attention to that detail. Yeah, she was just saying that it is literally like learning Photoshop from scratch.
Yeah, I mean, it's a completely different edit. Also because we look at photos on screen, the backlit, so everything looks nice and bright. And then you print it, it's obviously a flat media. It also depends where it's going to be, in what room, what light, if it's going to be under warm light or bright light.
Yeah.
So
is it going to have glass over the top of it, or if it's on an acrylic, is it going to reflect and all that sort of thing? Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why I don't sell prints. Because it's such a headache every time. Yeah, so I try not to, because I found that, because I'm a bit of a perfectionist, so I would feel really uncomfortable selling a print that I haven't checked.
Yeah.
Not happy with. But for me to be happy with the print, then I'm going to spend a lot of time trying to get the photo ready, get it perfect, and then so before you know, you spend 4 hours preparing a photo, and then you've paid your printer and the framer, and then you've
the return on investment isn't there.
Exactly. And so I don't really, if I had $1 every time people ask me for print, I would be very rich. But people always ask, they never actually buy print.
Yeah, well, I keep getting the occasional I'd love a print of that, and so you go, yeah, okay, here's where you can go. I've even got a print shop, you can buy prints off me. And you send them the link, and then they don't buy, and you never hear from them again.
Exactly, it happens all the time. So I think now my answer is often no. I don't sell print, so because the result is the same at the end.
That's
I don't
right.
sell the print anyway. So
You've gone to less effort.
yeah, I do. The only time I sell print is when I've done it a few times for charity events where
Sure.
sort of things, and it's a lot easier because I can take the time to do the print, and I decide what I want to print on, and then I give the print, and so that's a lot easier, much easier process. Yeah.
Absolutely. Have you ever hit a creative wall? And if so, how did you handle that?
So not a creative wall as in I don't want to shoot or I don't know what to shoot and I'm a bit lost and I don't know what to do. But I'm definitely in a constant creative overflow, which is just as bad as a creative wall because I have so many projects, so many ideas. My computer is full of sketches and notes that I take on my phone, and it's almost as bad as not knowing what to do because I've got so many ideas and so many projects that and so little time that I get frustrated because I don't get them done. So so that's I think it's just as bad as a creative wall because some of the shots are quite ambitious, so I need specific locations, specific people. Especially if I start working with like portraiture, like if I work with dancers or artists or something like this, it's a lot of planning. And I've got lots and lots and lots of ideas and lots of projects, even the architecture, not enough time. So that's just as frustrating, I think, because I just want to get them done.
Maybe you need to give up work so you can go.
Well, that's the plan. In relatively short times, we have a plan to at least slow down, and I'll have more time in the next 12 months. I think I'm going to really slow down on work, so I'll have more time.
Nice,
which is good.
What do you see as the biggest challenge facing photographers right now?
I think, for me, as a amateur photographer, I don't really have any challenges because I do pretty much what I like to do, and what I don't like to do, I don't. So I don't really have any challenges. But I think for somebody who's trying to make a living out of it or survive in the industry, I think the most challenging is probably to stand out somehow from a growing field of imposters. There's a lot of people who have been taking photos for 5 minutes and self-nominate themselves as, the king of photography and try to get in the industry. Don't last necessarily very long, but really devalue photography and contribute to the fact that people think photography is easy. And I think, I've had a few conversations with professional photographers who've been in the industry for 20 years, and they really start to feel that clients are starting to question, because a lot of clients don't necessarily understand also what a photographer really is.
They
say like, well, you're charging me this for a day, but I've got...
well, you just turn up and push a button,
Yeah, exactly. And that's pretty much what a lot of people think. But also that's quite a lot of what some photographers think as well, to a certain extent. When they think, I'm going to get into the industry of photography because it's nice, I like taking photos, but being a photographer obviously is different. You've got to have a vision, you've got to have the ability to solve problems, and that comes with experience, and it takes a long time to do this. So I think that's one of the challenges that people in the industry are facing more and more, because there's a lot more photographers that probably should learn photography a little bit longer before
they get into it.
Because I found photography, it's sort of kind of easier to fake it to some extent, more than, you can't really fake being an elite athlete, for example. The clock doesn't lie. If you can't run a marathon under 2 hours and 15 minutes, well, you can't pretend to be an elite athlete. Well, with photography, there's always...
It's very subjective,
ways to get around sort of, faking it a bit more. So I think that's why the industry is a bit of a flooded with this, and it must be also very difficult for clients to find somebody. If you don't know much about photography, how do you find the good one from the bad ones? So,
how do you find the right photography for you?
So I think that's one of the big challenge, and also possibly there's so many images available everywhere that people tend to try to buy images that already exist rather than organizing their own shooting. And Oh, I mean, I say buy, probably steal more than
Yeah,
buy. Yeah.
I was gonna say, yeah, I've seen plenty of examples where people have just picked up somebody else's work without any kind of attribution, even, so it's
Yeah.
not even like you're getting any kind of exposure.
Yeah.
Plus all the other ones where they say, "Oh yeah, we'll give you exposure." Well, I can't eat exposure, and I can't spend exposure. So.
Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of industries that do that. They contact you and say, "Oh, we'll use your photo and we'll credit your name."
Yeah.
And I always say no, because I mean I don't mind, because I'm not trying to make money out of my photography, but I don't want it, because if I say yes, then I'm sort of stealing the work of somebody who actually tried to make a living out of it. So
Yeah. Where do you see the future of photography going?
I think it depends on what sort of genres of photography. I'm not too sure about landscape. I think landscape photography will always exist, because, well, you can't really use a machine to generate a landscape that doesn't exist. Where in product photography, for example, there's a lot more computer generalized images, that kind of things. But I think photography, yeah, I think for landscape, that kind of stuff, I think it will still exist, because even if there's a general move to videos on social media, because that's what the trend is,
Yep.
I think there will still be a market or a place for still images.
Yeah. I think it's been challenging for a lot of people to look at the direction, say, Instagram has taken, and that's sort of seen a bit of a resurgence in Vero, for example. That shift towards TikTok-like video has put a lot of people offside, but I think Instagram's also kind of realised that there's a bunch of unhappy customers there. I don't know if they're customers or products, but
Yeah, I think they're more users, and I think that's where the confusion is a little bit. A lot of photographers got really upset with the new changes that Instagram made, and people saying, "Oh, Instagram doesn't care about photographers anymore." But Instagram never really cared about photographers. They care about money.
Yeah.
They care
about advertising dollars. That's how they make their money.
Exactly. So they don't promote the best content. They promote the content that is the most seen, and whoever is doing whatever they want you to do. So yeah, and that's why I think photographers probably should worry a bit less about Instagram, and because there are other ways to get your your work seen. Yeah, I think there's definitely many other ways.
And as you said earlier on, there's a lot of excellent photographers that are winning awards and with successful careers that have quite small or quite, I guess, less frequent social media profiles.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's almost like a different activity, different hobby. I think you're either a photographer or a photogrammer. But I mean, I think if you really worry about your photography, and if your work is really good, then there will be some exposure coming as a result from different channels than social media. And if you worry about followers and likes and that sort of things, then it's a different sport. It's really a different.
Definitely.
So, and it's, people need to do what they're happy to do. If they want to be an Instagrammer, then they should be. But I think it's a completely different world than photography. Yeah, I think.
What's your favourite thing about being a photographer?
My favourite thing is that I control it completely, because it's not a job. I really do what I want to do. I only take the photos that I want to take.
Yep.
So that, for me, that freedom of not having to worry about anything. The fact to be challenged, because every project is a new challenge. I try to learn a few new things, so stay stimulated. So it's really, for me, it's like a completely, it's a little bubble where I can do really whatever I like. And that's why I never want to turn it into a job or trying to make money out of it, because the minute I do this, then I've got to compromise on what I shoot. Because if you're trying to shoot for money, then it becomes a question of, do I take that photo that is a little bit risky, a little bit different, that I might not sell, or do I do stuff that I know sells? But in that case, then your creativity sort of suffers a little bit. So for me, the best thing is to really keep it as a hobby, and doesn't mean I can't do it seriously and try to be really good at it. But I've removed any sort of pressure from that, and that's what I really like.
Yeah. What's your least favourite thing about being a photographer?
Social media. It is social, and I'm not saying that good things don't happen on social media. There's a lot of things that happen on social media, but
sure.
I think the bad really outweighs the good by quite a long way. Kind of, I find it almost like, I find it really weird how ingrained Instagram is into people's photography, to the point where it has become pretty much the only purpose for it. I've had many conversations with people where they only take a photo if they can post it on Instagram, if they think it's going to do well on Instagram, whatever doing well on Instagram means. But and that is for me probably the worst part of being a photographer, because you almost feel that sort of constant pressure of having to follow that trend or get onto the trend of something like this, where I do use social media, but I only use them the way I want to use them.
Yeah, sure.
It's just a platform where I publish photos whenever I feel like, whatever I feel like, and then that's it. And then I don't even look at how many likes and that sort of stuff. I'm not interested, because it's just a publishing platform for my friends to see, my family, photographers I know, that sort of kind of circle. Anything else, if people like my stuff on Instagram, then they're very welcome to stay for more if they want to. And, the day they're not interested, they're also very welcome to go and follow someone else. But
sure.
What I don't like is that kind of pressure. I've had people message me from a few times saying, "Oh, I really like your landscape stuff, but I'm really not interested in your dance photography. So why don't you create a new account and separate the two, so I can, I can really see what I want to see."
Put up with the stuff they don't want. Yeah.
Exactly, and I'm like, well, this is what I do. I take lots of photos of many, many different things. My Instagram account is a giant bucket of stuff, and I have no intention of changing this, because I shoot for myself, and I am not going to ask someone I don't even know what I should shoot. It's just So that's the thing that I find quite negative in the photography world, is how social media really impact people's creativity, because they worry, I think, too much about rewards and
I think that you made a good point, though, that people are, I guess, used to seeing something from somebody, and I know myself, I'll post something that's a little bit different to my usual seascapes, which is, I love doing, don't get me wrong, I love doing my seascapes. I wouldn't post them, or I wouldn't do them otherwise. But I also like, as you said, a lot of different things, and so I'll put up something that's a little bit different. It might be an intimate scene of the forest floor or something in the Blue Mountains, for example, and you'll get comments back, not necessarily in public, but in DMs, as you say. Why don't you set up a separate account? Well, this is my account, and this is what I'm doing.
Exactly. Because
why should I do what you want me to do?
Exactly. But what sometimes really I find really odd is, you see people sometimes asking their followers what they should shoot next, or what they should post next, and that makes me always like almost cringe a little bit, because you're the artist. You should be saying, this is my work and this is who I am as a photographer, and then that's it. But I've never really understood that sort of pressure.
No, I don't understand the mentality of somebody coming along and saying, well, I don't like this aspect of what you do, as opposed, I really like this that you do, but I don't like that. It's kind of like, walking up to your favourite music artist and say, oh, I really like your old stuff, but this new stuff, it's...
Yeah, exactly. And you've got the freedom to go and listen to other stuff.
Well, this is it. Yeah, you don't have to. You don't have to stay around, and if you don't like it, well, so what?
Yeah, but I think that's why I think it's important to, as a photographer, if you are a photographer, to leave this behind and use social media as you want them to use, and not worry about whether you need to create some videos or that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anything to your photography. And if you are really worried about exposure and promoting your work and sort of things, there are many different ways to do this outside of social media. And if your work is really, really good, it's going to get noticed somehow. And I've started to notice that a little bit with my own work, and I'm nowhere near I want to be. And I'm still sort of learning photography, and maybe in 5, 6, 7 years' time, I'll be in a very different place. But I'm starting to get people contacting me and say, hey, I've seen that photo in that magazines or in that exhibition and stuff. Can we use your photo for our own exhibition? Like that sort of things, completely outside of social media, and it's quite nice because I just let this kind of thing happen, and if it happens, it's nice. It's always nice, but I'm not actively trying to.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that stuff that is going to happen organically is better happening organically rather than you trying to force it and you trying to necessarily actively go out and spruik your work and get people interested in it. You know, as you say, if you're putting it out there and you're putting it into competitions or exhibitions, and you know, magazines may see it on social media and they pick it up, and, you know, they're the things, certainly in my own work, I'm most pleased with and most happy with is where somebody organically out of the blue just comes along and says, I really like this, can I use it for this? You know?
Yeah. No, that's good. But that can also only happen when your work reaches a certain sort of standard. And I think that's what I'm focusing on, is really trying to get my photography to a level where I'm really happy with, because that will give me opportunities to have more access to venues or to people to do other projects that I have, that's kind of things. Because if I worry about my social media little world, then I'm only going to shoot and post what I know is going to do.
Yeah, the stuff that'll get you likes and get you followers. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that's why I always sort of, when you hear people talking about being an artist, but then in the same breath talking about producing content.
Yep.
And then for me, it's two different things. You know, if you're an artist, you worry about your creativity, you worry about your madness and do what you want to do. But producing content has this flavor of performance and trying to get some numbers, and that's I mean, it's two different games. There's nothing really wrong with that. It's just different different activities.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that, and that difference between, as you say, art and content. They are two very different things.
Yeah.
If you weren't, sorry, I'll ask that again. What do you like to do when you're not out shooting? You mentioned you've got lots of other hobbies.
Yeah, I do. So I do a fair bit of running, a bit less than I used to, but I still run a fair bit. So that's mostly how I experience the sunrise these days. Is I run early, and I really enjoy sunrise and seeing the city, you know, wake up and all of that. But I don't necessarily at the moment need to capture it. But yeah, so I do a fair bit of running. I play the piano quite a lot.
Okay.
Something I've been doing since I'm a kid. I'm still pretty bad at it, but you know, I keep trying.
As long as you enjoy it.
Yeah, no, exactly. That's why I really, really enjoy it. But it takes a bit of time, you know. Got to practice an hour or two every day to try to pick it up. And then what I do as well is I've been learning how to tune and renovate and rebuild pianos.
Brilliant.
So yeah, it's quite nice. I enjoyed it. It's also quite rewarding, but it's also very time consuming because that takes pretty much at the moment a good good portion of my weekends. So that's, so,
Who else should I be talking to on the podcast?
there's one photographer that comes to mind, especially in landscape, is Mika Boynton.
I've just recently spoken to her.
Oh, really? Good.
Yeah.
She's probably the best landscape photographer in Australia at the moment.
Wow. Okay.
Absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. She knows her stuff, and I've done a few sessions with her to review my work. So that's something I do quite regularly. Is I do portfolio reviews with photographers that are well established in the industry, and so that's how I learned quite a lot as well. So Mika's been really, really good at helping me with this. She's definitely a standout photographer in Australia, that's for sure. Another one that comes to mind is Graham Gordon.
Yep, I know Graham. Yep.
Yeah, he's also quite an exceptional photographer. Obviously very inspired by his work, and he's got an exceptional vision. Definitely. I don't think he does that full time either. I think I don't know if he does it part time as work, but
I think he's doing it part time as well.
Yeah, but his work is really exceptional. Yeah, I think his vision is really, really.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that.
So these are the two that come to mind. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that. I've got one more question for you, and it's the one that everyone knows is coming.
Yeah.
Do you like pineapple on pizza?
No, I don't. I don't at all. No.
No.
No, that is definitely something I would avoid as much as I can.
Fair enough.
You have to give me money to eat it.
Wow. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to speak to me, Stephane. It's been wonderful getting to know you and your work a little bit better. Where can people find what you do?
So I've got a little online portfolio that I've put together really quickly on one day because I needed to show something for a project. So it's at stphotos.net.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the things, and then I've got my Instagram bucket where I put all my stuff. But that's pretty much where it is.
Fair enough. All right. Well, thanks very much, Matt.
Thank you very much.
Thanks again for listening to Landscape Photography World. I hope you enjoyed the show, and keep listening because I'll be joined by some great guests in upcoming episodes. You can find my work in this podcast at grantswinburnphotography.com. I'm also on Vero, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. I'm Grant Swinburne. Hope to see you out shooting soon.